7 of the Get Hitched live wedding chat show. Apologies for that technical difficulty there. So again, I'll go again. So welcome to episode 7 of the Get Hitched live wedding chat show. With us today, we have a very special guest, our first caterer on the show, actually. It's Anne Marie from Neriku Catering. We're very excited to discuss everything related to wedding catering, all you need to know, any advice she can give. We're also going to be talking about the history of Neriku. We had episode 7 comes after two exciting shows that were hosted by our colleagues Albert and Rosie. We had Jean-Claude the dance from for wedding dance, and also yesterday we had Johnny videography. So there's quite a lot of content that is being generated through these shows and lots of engagement. And today we're excited to have Anne Marie from Neriku. So I'm going to bring my partner into the stream as well as Neriku. Please welcome me in welcoming them. So here we go. Here's John, and here is Anne Marie. Hi guys,
Hi.
how's it going?
Hi Ben, hi Anne Marie.
Good, thank you.
All good? Good.
Yep.
I'm boiling. I can't believe it's feeling like summer. It's already like my car is showing 36
Yes.
degrees.
Indeed.
Viva Malta.
Yes.
Yeah, summer is coming early.
Yep.
Okay, so
Yes.
welcome to the show. I'm excited for
Thank
our
you.
first show on catering. So I'd like to start, Anne-Marie, by telling if you could tell us a bit about yourself as Anne-Marie and
Mhm.
also as Neriku. I read in your blog recently, and you can tell us about that. You've been in business for decades. So if you
Yeah.
could tell us a bit about that.
So, Neriku, I guess, is a typical Maltese company in the way that it's a family business. We're now in our third generation. So my nonno started the business, and eventually, and still my dad and my uncle are directors in the company. And there's myself, my brothers, my cousins. So it's a whole family involved. I'm the only female there. Um, Throughout the 50 years, we've been through different transitions and we've done a lot of different things. But just to take it really quickly, my nonno, when he started simply just by selling fries and battered fish. But he was very
Wow. Okay.
super innovative, and he really got what people want, you know. So he quickly expanded and kept on doing different services and products. So
Hmm.
eventually they had a lot of shops throughout the islands with fresh bread and a lot of sweets. And eventually he went into outside catering as well. Then my uncle and dad took over, and during that phase, they mostly focused on frozen products. So they supplied canteens, hotels with pastizzi, ravioli, and these kind of products.
Okay.
But eventually, I think mostly since my brother I think maybe like 15 years ago now, was introduced to the company, we started moving back into the outside catering business. Yep, and here we are now.
That's an
Amazing.
amazing story, and I love when it's family-run business and multi-generational. It's not easy to do, and I love the fact that since the beginning of your history, you were innovators. You know, you kept coming up with new ideas and adapting to the times. So yeah, I'm interested in learning more about what you guys are doing.
Yeah, you literally can't stop reinventing yourself, I guess. It's literally like you snooze, you lose kind of thing. You know, you have to stay up to date and actually try yourself to be a trendsetter rather than follow people. So I think that's key to surviving.
Yeah, and
Exactly. We
even
wholeheartedly believe in that.
Yeah, for sure, especially with the concepts you came up with.
yeah, in fact, that's what I want to touch on. Like, so you've come across from, to where you are today from generations.
Mhm.
But if you look even at your branding, of the Noriko branding, it's very current and it's very modern. But it's still kind of, there's this blend between where your tradition and where you're coming from and kind of where you are and maybe where you're going. So can you tell us a bit about how you kind of reinvented that look and feel of the brand?
Um, I think obviously, as I said, because when you're known for so many times and people know you for different things, we needed to rebrand and sort of say, okay, this is where we are now and where we want to go. But I really wholeheartedly believe that you always have to be true to who you are and what we
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
So we try to, with our branding, to always show what we are. I don't know how to explain it better, but and then the feel. Yes, we wanted to go for a modern feel. We changed our color scheme. We changed the logo. But yeah, we wanted to be a true representative of ourselves.
Cool, cool. And going on to the next question, and I don't
Mhm.
really want to kind of discuss COVID as we already agreed, but in terms of we understood the past, the present, which is kind of a new normal or a new present. How has the COVID situation affected Neriku's plans, let's say for 2020, 2021,
Hmm.
if in any way? Um,
Well, yes, it has a drastic effect. I guess anyone in the catering industry had this impact.
right,
And unfortunately, I think the biggest concern is that we don't know when things will change or how will they change and when will they change. So that is the questions, everyone has. So yeah, at the moment, basically, most of the weddings have now been postponed. Who was going to get married in April postponed to October, November. But now the question is, should we now postpone again?
right,
So obviously that we were gearing up for a busy season, and then all of a sudden it's going to be our first summer without any wedding. So
right,
it's also a bit difficult to plan because some people are like, but maybe in January and February things haven't still gotten better. What are we going to do then?
right.
And I guess the reality is, like how many people are saying, without a vaccine, this will always be
Mhm.
on top of our head. So it's a bit difficult to plan, but we're trying to remain positive and kind of be fast with how we create new products. For example, we had created these barbecue home packs.
Yeah.
We just try to immediately adapt as much as possible to the
No,
new market.
The Easter Figolli, I saw that you've done an amazing campaign there. One of
Thank
them
you.
had like 900 likes or so
Yes.
on an advert.
Thank you.
And every year we like to be a part of it. This year our plans went off the rails, but
Yeah,
it's always amazing when you come up with something that is going to make people happy and you're going to help give back to charity.
yeah,
And we see that it was a fantastic campaign.
yeah,
So
yeah. We're very happy
kudos.
with that. Yeah, it went, and we got very good feedback from the clients, which is always important. I think Neriku stands for a genuine home product, a homely product, and I think that's what they get with our Fugol, and I guess in general with our services and products.
cool. In fact, we have a question later on about like how do you come up with the concepts for new products and all this and the inspiration for that. But we'll get to that. In terms of questions for anyone who's watching us, please feel free to ask any questions to Anne Marie or to ourselves in the Facebook comments. We'd love to hear from you. Yesterday, the show we had like I don't know like 60 comments or whatever. So and we get them answered on the spot. So feel free if you have any question. We are going to have room for a Q&A at the end as well, but feel free to chime in as we go along.
Yep.
So in terms of catering, you already touched a bit on it, Anne-Marie, but how has catering changed in your views with the times in general and for Neriku?
I think when it comes to the catering industry, I think it has changed a lot and developed into new different ways over the years. I think one of the things that has changed maybe here locally, maybe it's better to say that, is maybe 40 years ago, it was common to have a chunky drumstick being served on a tray. And we moved away from that a lot. And clients want different innovative products. We moved away from going from traditional pastry items.
Right,
So I think that is, everyone can, say that, notice that. I think one thing that we are seeing a trend is that people are going a bit for smaller weddings nowadays. It was
right,
very common that you would invite 500 people to your wedding. although those weddings still happen, they're really reducing. I think the average is now going down to 250.
Okay.
But however, I want to point out that the average spend per guest has, year after year, keeps on drastically increasing. So I think couples are looking to create a personalized experience for their guests.
Right.
And by personalized experience, I mean I think they want to obviously entertain them and literally give them an experience through the food, through the drinks, but also give it a personalized touch. So sometimes they come up with a personalized signature drink, or
Right.
you see their initials as a decorations, and these personal touch. And I think that is one of the most significant changes we see.
Okay, and what about so two things. One, when like the recent weddings I've been to, like there's like this new trend of food stations, like
Mm-hmm.
burger bars or like a sushi bar or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and also like new um, options for vegans, for vegetarians, for like gluten free and all this. So, like it's something that if I remember weddings of the past, I don't know, like I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, you didn't see this stuff. So there's a trend there also, I guess, right?
Yes, for sure. And it keeps on growing and diversifying more. Maybe, for example, 5 years ago, it started with the gluten-free, thing. And now veganism and being vegetarian has really grew. We also see a lot of clients requesting a more greener wedding. And by that, they would want to avoid using plastic. They
Right.
don't want that they throw away too much food. They're looking for organic local products. Yes, it keeps on diversifying, but the role of the caterer is always trying to keep the 250 guests in mind. If you have a small crowd who follow a vegan diet, does not mean that everyone likes to eat that, and vice versa. People are more health conscious, for example. So you kind of need to create always menus which everyone will enjoy eating.
Right. And it's already been touched on, but what would you say are the top wedding trends in terms of catering? I don't know, between this last year or this year's weddings and what you foresee is going to happen in 2021.
Yeah, I guess like how we mentioned, I think this will keep on growing and
Right.
diversifying more. We're seeing also maybe it's the foreign blogs, wedding blogs. We see a lot about taking casual foods and making them look fun and cool and incorporating them in our weddings. I guess Maltese weddings tend
Can
to
you give some
sometimes.
examples?
Sure. Like the burger bar that you mentioned, like the food truck style, like pulled pork buns, pizza stations. Maltese weddings tend to be quite, how shall I say, sometimes can be quite kif suppost,
Key support.
so sometimes they don't go for a casual feel. But seeing these wedding blogs, people are quite intrigued to try them, like a donut station and something a bit more homey and fun, fish and chips, for example.
Yeah.
And the response you get from something so simple
Yeah.
is incredible.
We had the burger station at our wedding, and we got
Okay.
married in April.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a few months since we've had the summer barbecues, and everyone was so wowed by this burger station,
Yeah.
which we weren't sure if we should have or not,
Yeah.
and it was a big hit. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's highly recommended. They don't cost that much, and it's something different. Like pasta, it's very common to have a pasta station.
Mm-hmm.
Not that there's anything wrong with that at all,
Mm-hmm.
but doing something a little bit different or even changing some things around, it gives that little extra for people to talk about.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And you see the inner child coming through,
Yeah.
especially after a few drinks.
Something that just came to my mind actually is like, so I'm seeing, or I have attended more kind of Maltese, I don't know, Maltese Greek wedding. It's the Maltese
Mhm,
bride or whatever, or
mhm,
English or whatever
mhm.
culture really. Have you seen, or do you see a change in the menu when it comes to different cultures coming together?
Yeah, for sure. We cater for foreign weddings, but yes, I think the world is becoming more connected, so it's very common that someone has a foreign partner. And yeah, it's usually I enjoy it because you have to incorporate both cuisines.
Yeah.
And usually foreigners tend to have a sit-down meal, whilst us Maltese tend to have stand-up receptions. So you
Right.
have to tend to combine these two things together. Also, foreign weddings tend to go a bit for longer. They tend to have the ceremony there and move throughout the day. So you need to kind of try and blend these two words together. So yeah, it usually always works out because people always love to try different things.
Yeah.
But especially when you start dealing with foreign people, maybe or diverse audience, is that then you have different religions. So then even more, you have to give more importance about the menu to make sure it's well balanced. So if, for example, you have, you're going to have people who are Muslim, you have to make
Mhm.
sure that you don't have pork on, or you have halal meat and things like
Mhm.
that.
Cool. Okay. And going to the next question. So, in as Neriku, do you what would I if you had to ask like what is Neriku known for the best in weddings and even maybe not just weddings? Like why Neriku? Why is that signature dish or item?
Okay. I think something we just mentioned, I think when it comes to weddings, obviously we give importance to finger food. We've been investing a lot and keep on investing in our stuff and machinery and equipment we have in the kitchens. So yes, but when it comes to food stations, we really love that because in a way it allows us to interact more with the guests.
Hmm.
For example, lately we came up with the idea of the tagliata station.
Oh, okay.
So the chef will grill it on the barbecue there and then. And let's say if you want it well done, he wouldn't like it, but he will grill it for you well done.
Yeah.
And if someone likes it rare, so he can customize the food for the guests. And the guests get to feel who our staff is. Basically, we're offering a show, an experience for the guests. So I really would say that food stations has become our thing.
Cool. Okay.
But I think over and above everything, I think it's us. And I really believe that if it's a corporate client, whoever a wedding, it's so important to understand who the client is and what the client's goals are. It's useless, for example, imagine you have someone who says, listen, I have an unlimited budget, or daddy's going to pay, for example, and I can spend as much as I want. Great, but that doesn't mean I should offer you a lobster bar or an oyster bar. Because if your guests don't like that kind of food,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
useless. So it's important to take the time to get to know your clients. It's irrelevant how busy you get. You can't treat your client as a number. And I really think that us as Nerico really do that.
Amazing.
Well said. That is something that again, it's something we agree with, and we recommend anyone using Hitched to communicate with suppliers, have a chat with them, get to know them, so they get to know you, and that is where they can tailor a package for you. Because just receiving quotes and looking at the quote, it's not, it shouldn't be the decision maker.
Mm-hmm.
Quotes and prices can change, but when you get to know each other, you build rapport, and you have something tailor made that's just for you. That is where the magic happens. And asking these kind of questions, getting to know their family members, it goes beyond budget, and it really makes a difference to the whole experience, to the whole wedding experience.
For sure. Yeah.
Cool. So we have a comment here from Alberta. So saying hello to
Hi.
all. So
Hi,
hi, Alberta.
Alberta.
Thanks for the comment. So all right. So in terms of the new products, again, and you touched on it, like the food stations. But how do you get the idea to create these new concepts? Is it brainstorming? Is there a strategy session? Feedback? I don't know.
Well, I'm not a chef, so I tend to come up with ideas, and then with the chefs, they kind of get the idea and create the end product. But Overall, the whole team works differently. And one thing we do for sure is that every year we go to these massive food and beverage trade shows. And
Right.
it's so impressive seeing the latest products on the market and seeing the best brands and all that. So that really usually gives a lot of inspiration. And also, I follow a lot of wedding blogs, top international chefs, even top local chefs, even just looking at what florists are doing nowadays, getting all these ideas and allow them to inspire you. And like you said, you brainstorm with the team, and most importantly, then create your own ideas. So you just use that for inspiration and do not copy. I think that is the key to creating great new concepts.
Right. Kind of segueing a bit, but you mentioned like copying and all this, and like in Malta, there are quite a number of caterers. Um, do you see that maybe there is a bit of overlap between caterers, or do you feel that everyone tries to do their own thing and work in their own space?
um, um, I don't know. I think I need to think about that. I think yes. I think there's a market for everyone. And I think that's the most important thing that people, any supplier should know. Everyone can find his own client.
Right.
And I think people, especially here in Malta, there are a lot of family businesses
Yeah.
which are in catering. So yes, sometimes maybe there is an overlap, but I think people tend to match their kind to their caterer.
Right.
But yeah, there's a lot of competition, and the only way to survive, like we were mentioning before, is to reinvent yourself and not
Yeah.
reinvent yourself, actually move away from what competition is doing and always try to be different.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with competition because it's always going to be there. It ends up, for the consumer, it's kind of better because the product is always going to improve and improve and improve.
Yes, for sure.
As long as it is healthy competition, and it's not being throwing under people under the bus, basically.
Exactly. Exactly.
Um, and I know, sorry for putting you on the spot with that question, but it is something that just sprang to my mind, and it is something that I haven't been to a million weddings. I'm not going to lie, but I feel that from the weddings I've been to from different caterers, you do realize that this is this caterer in terms of style. I mean, not
Hmm.
talking about quality or anything. In terms of
Hmm.
style, you say, okay, this is Neriku, this is XYZ, this is
Hmm. Hmm.
um, so it's kind of I feel that maybe the caterers in Malta have found their tone of voice, or their style.
For sure. I think
So,
also sorry.
sometimes it's not just the food, right? It's even the quality of the service, the people handing out the food. That makes a huge difference that
Yeah,
it's rarely discussed. Like when we're talking catering, a lot of people talk about the food, but again, the experience and the people handing the food and just smiling, even after a long day while you're serving hundreds of
Exactly.
people, that makes a big difference as well. And it requires a lot of training from management all the way down to the
Of
staff.
course. Like you mentioned, most weddings happen here in Malta. Sometimes you're there from 12 o'clock already setting up for a wedding, which is going to start much later on in the sun. It's hot, it's a long day. So, yes, keeping staff motivated and with a smile on their face and energetic is definitely key. And one thing I wanted to mention is that I think every caterer, because it's so personal, this business for you, that everyone is very proud of what they do. So
right.
I think that's why we and others, make sure to make themselves different from others because that way, because you're so proud of what you create.
Right. And there is an art as well to it in terms of the food. It's not just
For sure.
operationally, but artistically, and yeah, fair enough.
There must
Cool.
be
All
a
right.
passion, even just from what you mentioned, researching, going to trade shows. you need to keep passionate about what you do to continue learning and not just get stuck in your old ways, even though they are working, right? Because you've had amazing success, but the fact you keep looking for the next big thing or how to make something a little better, I think that starts coming off in the overall product.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Cool. So thanks for that, Anne Marie. Going to the a very big question in my opinion. I have this question and I've seen this question a lot. So if imagine I'm going to get married and I'm going to have 250 guests, how do you even begin to know what is the right amount of food for the people?
And it is a tricky question. And it helps that, I have someone like my dad who's been doing this since he was 11 to guide me, so it is not such a straightforward answer of, okay, you need X amount of kilos. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
There are a lot of questions which you need a lot of answers to build that answer. First of all, when is the wedding taking place? Is it taking place on a Sunday afternoon?
Hmm.
Is it happening on a Saturday? How long is the wedding gonna last for? Is it for 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours?
Right.
Will you have just finger food? Will you have finger food on a station? Even something like on a corporate event, if you have people sitting in a seminar for 4 hours and it's lunchtime, they're going to be really hungry. So you have to calculate differently. So it's not such a simple equation, there are a lot of things which contribute on how to calculate how much food you need to prepare for a wedding.
Right. And does it make a difference even if it's like a summer wedding or a winter wedding? Does it make a difference if it's a Maltese wedding versus a different culture wedding? Notoriously, we Maltese,
Morning
we
and evening.
yeah,
Yeah, for example, a Sunday afternoon, like at lunchtime, usually most Maltese people still have their big lunch on a Sunday. So, and especially like if you have certain women getting ready by 9 o'clock to get to the mass by 11, they're going to be really hungry by 1, 2 o'clock. So, usually we see that on a Sunday afternoon, people eat much more than on a Friday evening because most probably you're already at lunch and dinner, and then you came to the wedding. So yes, also in summer versus winter, if it's a really, really hot day, people tend to be a bit lethargic and not eat as much as even if it's in winter, So yes, it does. A lot of things contribute to what people eat on the day.
cool. We actually have another question here, and great question. So I'm from Glor. I'm curious about what catering services or couples do with leftover food, if there is any. It is a good question, especially because of corporate social responsibility and all this.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a tricky question. Um, uh, so we, as in us Neriku, we tend to give the leftover food to the couple. We are a bit selective what we give to them in the sense that if there's a canapé which consists of certain ingredients, like egg, cream, and stuff like that, especially in the middle of August, we tend to, that obviously doesn't remain good after some time and discard of it.
Sure.
So with certain leftover food, we do give it to the client. And it is very important that the client makes sure they handle the food properly. It's useless going back home with 10 boxes and you don't have enough space in the fridge because that means you have to throw it away.
Right.
So we usually tell them, make sure you have space in your fridge, or immediately they usually tend to give some to their mommy and nana, and they pass it around. Um, but other companies do have different policies about it, and which we understand because people need to be careful how they handle their food, especially in a very cold, hot summer day.
Right. And is it, let's say I would want to give it to charity, say,
Mhm.
do you leave that up to the couple? It's at their discretion, or
Of course, I mean, it's up to what the couple wants to do with it. Some charities take it in, and some charities don't.
yeah,
So
yeah,
Correct.
if your idea is to pass it over to the charity, I do recommend that you already speak to them from before, so they know about it. Because it's useless if they had food and then you take the finger food and there's extra food and it needs to be thrown away.
yeah.
So it's
Fair
best
enough.
to always plan.
Okay. So
It
thanks for
also
the
makes a
question.
difference, just for people watching, if you have the honeymoon the next day, because
Mm,
you need someone else to
you're
handle the
welcome.
food. Like we you're welcome, Gloria. We had the honeymoon the next day, so we needed to leave it to her parents to pass it around. But you need to make sure that you plan that, not just send the food over to them and it's just going
Of
to rot
course.
away.
Yes, that's it. Usually there's always a few people that you help you coordinate, the last bits and pieces that you need to do after the wedding. So yes, like one of the major questions is like how I'm going to take the food back home, So that's why it's always important to plan. You mentioned before how much food will remain. I think people are more. It's like keeping the balance between not over ordering. It's a waste to have a lot of food and it just remains over there versus not having enough food. So
Yeah.
having the right balance is key. And discussing this with your clients gives you an idea of how much to prepare. Some people tell you, my family eats a lot, and when they usually keep on emphasizing that, you have to take that into consideration and make sure that you provide more. You plan a bulkier menu.
Yeah.
Maybe a
Sometimes a
sensitive.
lot of food. Go on, Ben.
Yeah. So maybe a sensitive question, but have you ever run into situations where I don't know, let's say you're dealing with the couple directly or wedding planner or the mother, because they like to get involved, and they say, no, we need this type amount of food. Let's say it's 10 items, I'm inventing. And you know that that is too little.
Mm-hmm.
They need more. And they are adamant that they want 10 items. And then, I don't know, halfway through the wedding or three quarters through the wedding, it runs out. Have you had this situation um, happen? Or
Um,
do you make sure that you don't allow that to happen?
exactly. You make sure not to allow that to happen. Um, uh, that's it. You obviously have to respect what the client wants. But if it's a 4-hour duration wedding and you have 10 canapes, it's very obvious that this is not enough food. So I would refuse to cater for that wedding. But
Okay, fair enough.
what we usually
Good.
do is keep on trying to come up, with a compromise. So
Right.
if budget is the issue, you try and see how to work around it. But no, you don't want to be in the position where you're in the middle of a wedding and you have no food to serve. That would be a horrible
Yeah,
experience. So no, I
fair
wouldn't
enough.
do it.
Sometimes it goes the other way around as well. So when everyone's full and the food keep coming out, it's like they over ordered and then it becomes too much. It's like you have to tell the waiter, like, please, you don't need to come around this area again. So striking the right balance is very important from a budget point of view, and also
Yeah,
like you need to understand your audience, your family.
yeah,
In
for
fact,
sure.
we have a question here from Alberta. It's not going to show all in the screen, but she's saying, I've seen a few weddings where they continue serving the finger food even after the cutting of the cake and the after party has started. Is this becoming a common trend?
Usually, if we have a menu, we sort of what we do is what we discuss with the couple how we're going to plan the evening, and usually we make sure that the number of items are served before cutting of the cake, unless it's a dessert which we have decided to serve at the end towards with the cake.
Right.
Um, uh, Maybe it could have been some after hours finger food that maybe you could serve after the wedding cake, but we usually, at least how we work, is that the food is served before cutting of the cake.
Okay. So thank you for the questions, guys, in the comments. Please keep them coming. We're open to any questions. I can't believe we're already at 37 minutes, and we still have some few questions, but please, if you can get in the questions quickly before it's end of time, it would be appreciated. Okay, so Anne-Marie, thanks for all the information so far. Going to the next question. What is the deadline to book the catering for a wedding? Obviously, um, barring any dates that you're already booked. So what is the standard for you guys as Neriku?
Well, really and truly, if we are available, technically you can do it in a week if you want, but
Okay.
obviously no couple will do that. But yes, I mean, we tend to make sure, I guess with everything, balance is the key, you know. We don't overpack ourselves too much, especially in summer and Christmas time, and you take in a certain amount of clients, and that's it. Also, certain weddings sometimes need more preparation than others. Sometimes they have a very vast menu, or require certain ingredients which you need to procure from before and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, no one plans a wedding within a week or a few weeks, but if you are specific on a date, yes, you need to plan from before so you can book us in from before.
Okay, brilliant. All right. Okay.
Hi.
Okay. Hello, Chloe. I am working from home. Um, all right. So going to the final kind of couple of questions. So is there a difference for you when you're dealing directly with the client? So when it's B2C versus when you're dealing with a wedding planner and you might not even have met the couple because they're abroad or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, well,
Yeah, I mean, obviously there is a difference. Sometimes it's well, the wedding planner tends to make the organization a bit easier,
mhm.
especially when at a certain point during the wedding, suppliers need to work together. So the organizer helps this, you know, coordinates this, and especially, you know, when you're in the busy season, you tend to be working with the organizers quite regularly. So you build a relationship with them. They understand how you work, you understand how they work, and that makes it easier. And usually it's helpful for both parties. But yes, when it's a foreign wedding, especially, or when a Maltese couple takes the full package, where the wedding organizer is going to take care of everything for them, yeah, it's a bit weird not ever getting to meet this couple.
Yeah.
I do try to eventually at least meet them, you know. So what you need to make sure is that from the wedding organizer, you ask the questions to get a good feel of what the client wants. But usually, the organizer makes sure that they do that. You have to, then in the end of the day, you kind of have two clients, you know, so you need to keep
Yeah.
both of them in mind. This is like the same thing when, for example, if your company approaches you, and you have the office manager or the HR manager, and someone is organizing an event.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the more understanding you are of this person, the more helpful you can be. Because, for example, they have to consider budgets, they have to consider all their co-workers, they have to consider their boss. So the more you help them create a more and great event, they'll be very happy, and then they tend to keep on working with you.
Cool. That's actually an interesting point. So, when you mentioned maybe corporate clients and companies, all this, would you say that that business usually comes or helps when you have a wedding couple who might be part of company X and they say, "Listen, I had Neriku for my wedding. Let's get them for the Christmas party," or is it completely separate and you just have a set of clients in the corporate world that know you and come directly?
It's a mix. I think it also makes a difference depending on the client. If the company is full of Maltese people working there, yes, it tends to work that way.
Right.
That they've been to a wedding, and you know, then they recommend us. But for
Mhm.
example, there are so many big companies nowadays with an international workforce. They wouldn't know some of the caterers, so they do tend to need to be, for example, they have a planner and they recommend us, or they would have been to another event and they see you there. You know, word of mouth is still very essential, but sometimes it's simple Google, you know, so they get a quote, and yeah, so it's a mixture.
Fair enough. All right. going to the last part where I know there's some advice that you'd like to give to couples, but also I'd like the opportunity if maybe you could tell us like some of the current plans that are ongoing. I know I've been seeing a lot of, like you mentioned, the barbecue packs. John and I were just talking about them yesterday, the Figolli. So if you could like package it into two parts, like the advice for couples, and I'd also like the viewers to know what's in store for Neriku now and in the future.
Okay. When it comes to advice, I think I would always say to the couple to stay true to themselves. I know it sounds cliche, but it's very easy to hear. So, you have so many people giving you advice and being invited to a lot of weddings, or your sister just got married 6 months before you, so you're very influenced. But um, uh, if you feel like you want to do a casual wedding, do a casual wedding. If you don't want to spend too much money, don't spend too much money,
Right.
and just be true to yourself.
Hmm.
I mean, I really believe it because I've done our wedding campaigns with this slogan in mind, to be yourself.
Right.
And when couples are themselves, then they tend to have a better time when they're there at the wedding. So, yeah, for sure, that would be my piece of advice.
Cool. And is there any advice specific to the current situation in terms of postponing the wedding, deposits, and all this? I don't know how you.
Yeah, it's not an easy situation. It's not an easy situation on anyone, the couples, the suppliers, and no one had experience on how to handle this before. And no one, like I mentioned, no one knows when it's going to get better. So I think try to stay calm and try to stay positive, and just adapt and say if it's going to happen next year. I tell them, well, you're going to have more time to save up more money. I don't know. You try to be a bit positive and maybe have, if you had that idea, you have time to, create it, or so try to stay positive, I guess.
Cool.
Great advice, Anne Marie.
Cool. So we are over time. So the last one, like what's in store, what's happening in the Nerico world, what can maybe your clients and we expect in the next few weeks, months, years? I don't know.
Well, weeks, I don't know, because of the COVID situation. We have two, Neriku, maybe not a lot of people know, but we have two sides to us. We have the outside catering, maybe, obviously that is more known. And that is something that I love dearly, and I want to keep on growing it and keep on expanding and keep on pushing ourselves to create events, different kinds of events and different cuisines, and keep on pushing it. So that's definitely what we would want to do with the outside catering side.
Hmm.
And then we also have a contract catering side, which not a lot of people know, which basically, for example, we supply food for companies where they want to provide meals for their workforce.
Hmm.
Some once a week, some we literally do every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Wow.
So, like for example, in summer, we used to, this year, unfortunately, maybe it won't happen, supply food for English schools, English language schools. So we have this different side. So yeah, that's something that we want to keep on growing and expanding as well.
Cool. And I need to see this barbecue. Actually, can you tell us a bit about that?
Yes,
Um,
because we're thinking
we're,
about ordering it, so that's
Okay,
why
good
we
to
were
know.
discussing it, not for the show.
yeah.
All right. So, well, originally the idea came that a few years ago, we came up with the idea of Neriku Barbecue Services, where the idea is that, you know how it is, there's a group of friends or co-workers and like, let's do a barbecue this summer. And there's always that unfortunate soul who has to go get the drinks, buy
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
food, and then has to gather all the money. And poor guy ends up by the barbecue all night. So the idea is that people organize a barbecue, and we just come on site with the food, get all the equipment, and do all the cooking and serving and everything like that.
Oh, okay.
However, and we used to do really well with this in summer. However, COVID might not allow it this year. So we took a product which clients know us for, and we created the home pack. Once again, although we do maybe have more time on our hands and we have time to cook, sometimes it's still very time consuming, and sometimes it works out more expensive if you want to do dips and this and that. You have to buy lots of groceries, go to the butcher, and all that. So the idea is that you get it all delivered at home. At the moment, currently, we have two menus. We have a veggie one, which is ideal for vegetarians, vegans, or people on a healthier diet. And then the other one is, I call it the classic menu, which consists of sausages and nibbles and garlic bread and a piece of meat, skewers. Everything is marinated, individually packed, and you get it delivered. And all you need to do is just grill it on the barbecue.
Amazing.
Mm.
Brilliant. Nice. Okay.
So I
So
take your order then.
yeah.
Yes, we do an online order.
Yeah, at least we were very lucky, I guess. We already had a website which allows for online ordering and people can pay online. So that really was much easier during this situation because we had already these services.
Cool.
Yes,
And the last
that's
thing,
wonderful.
actually, that maybe you could give a few words on is your
Mhm.
blog. This is something new that I've seen on social media, right? I know that you post the story about Neriku, about the beginnings and your tenor. So maybe you can tell us a bit about that and what the viewers can expect
Yeah,
by following the blog.
this has been on my to-do list for shamefully for many months, and I never had time to get to it. And finally, I sat down and kind of worked on it. The idea with the blog um, uh, is to for us to maybe it's a platform for us to show more who we are,
Right.
and maybe even offer advice and tips. This week we're going to have another one coming out about the barbecue home pack.
Cool.
But the idea now, eventually, you'll see that we're going to have special guests on, and hopefully always offer entertainment or good advice to other clients, out to our customers.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Brilliant. Okay, so that's perfect. We are like 10 minutes over time, but it's fine.
Sorry,
Um,
I told you I'm chatting.
no, it's fine as long as the content is good.
Exactly. The
We're
content
happy.
was great.
Thank
Yeah,
Um,
and
you.
so I
I
don't know if
spoke
you'd
I
have
spoke
any
the least.
closing words.
No, thank you very much for having me on the show. Had a blast. You guys are great, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Anne Marie. I don't know if you have any final words, John.
No, it was great having you, and it's all great content. I love to keep seeing you, especially year after year, continue innovating and growing the family business. So kudos to you and to your entire team, and thank you for joining the show and being part of Get Hitched, Emery.
Thank you. Thanks.
Cool. Thanks. I'm gonna wave you goodbye and bring the show to an end. Thank you. See you.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Okay, so there you have it, episode 7 of the Getish Live Wedding Chat Show. Exciting guest, Anne Marie from Neriku. Lots of advice about catering, the amount, how they get inspiration, the differences and trends in weddings nowadays in Malta, different food stations, different, dietary requirements, items that you need, the whole works. Even new products and new ideas that Neriku are working on. Thank you so much for tuning in as well to all the guests. It's been great. I'm gonna wave you goodbye and we'll see you at the next one. Have a good one. Bye bye.